Welcome once again to our program, our family program. My name is Evas Atwine Kansime, and I'm a marriage therapist and a relationship coach. I always enjoy speaking to you about these very, very important areas related to marriage and relationships. One of the reasons we run this program is because marriage and family management and relationships have received very little attention. We only come in when things have gone wrong. So I'm inspired to speak to you because it's important that we have skills to manage rather than trying to deal with symptoms. Today I'm addressing a very important area, one of the critical questions that came through, and it's about age in relationships and marriage. Does age matter? I have gotten so many questions about age and the importance of age. I mean physical age, the number of years, how old you are, whether it matters in a marriage relationships. But can I also tell you right from the start that everything in marriage and relationships matter? That's why we should never minimize anything, because everything matters. Everything influences a relationship, so it matters. But let me just address myself to the issue of age. And the key questions that have come through, people ask, when is it the right time to marry? So my sharing today will address this area. Another question that comes through is, should I marry someone who is older than me? And ladies are asking, should I marry a man older than me? Men are also asking, should I marry a woman older than me? Again, I'll be able to talk about this issue. But then what is very interesting is somebody asked me this weekend, what is the most recommended age difference for a successful marriage, right? Again, I'll talk about this. Others ask, can I attribute my problems when they are having challenges to the fact that my wife or husband is a lot younger or older? Now, those are very important aspects, okay? So I'm going to be able to address them. In this session, I'm going to emphasize the issue of maturity vis-a-vis age, but let me also talk about whether age matters. Of course, age matters in terms of where we are in our different stages of life. If you marry someone who is way older than you, young ladies who are out there, it is okay. There's nothing wrong with it. But just make sure that they don't treat you like another little daughter of theirs in terms of decision making, in terms of they've already established themselves financially or materially, and they don't value you. Now, that's one of the reasons I didn't want to go age the number, but I wanted to look at maturity as the most important thing. But some of those issues, I just wanted to bring them up in terms of how do we respect someone of a different age, which goes back to character more than the number of years. Now, in answering the question of does age matter in a marriage and relationship and love relationship, does it matter? My answer is going to be yes and no. So let me begin with yes. In terms of age, remember we are talking about age, the number. First of all, age is very important in terms of the biological processes, what we call brain development. Let me just explain something from a psychology or physiological standpoint. Why age is important is that the critical parts of the brain, like the prefrontal cortex, which helps with most of the functions, planning, problem solving, and decision making, those critical parts, they don't fully develop until about the age of 25. Now, why this is important is that, for instance, this can account for why a lot of young people or teen emotions often seem very unpredictable. So somebody younger, their emotions are still unpredictable because they haven't developed fully in terms of that part of the brain that is responsible for the critical functions of a relationship, the critical relationship functions like personality expression, decision making, problem solving, regulation of behavior. This is extremely important for any intimate or love relationships or marriage. It's very important. So that cerebral cortex covering the frontal part of the frontal lobe of the brain, that's a region that is important for those functions. Now, if that area is not fully developed, then of course you're still dealing with somebody really young, as we say, young in terms of, because when we say somebody is young and immature, they have challenges with planning. They are young. I mean, think about some of us who are married, your child. How much are they able to deal with problem solving, with personality expression, with decision making, with regulation of behavior? So that's where it is important. Now, I must warn you though, that this brain region, right, it develops at a rate at which it is utilized. You know, I explained earlier that a human being has two brain regions. One is the emotional part, and then we also have the logical part. Now, this is the prefrontal cortex is the logical part, and this logical part, unfortunately, develops at a rate at which one uses it. If you address issues using the emotional part of your brain, you make decisions based on how angry or happy or excited you are, then that retards the logical part of your brain. So yes, I said it's important up to the age of 25. So maybe you can say any time after 25 is really a good time to get married. However, I also want to emphasize that a person's level of maturity, and again, remember I'm talking maturity, which is emotional intelligence, emotional maturity, and I'm going to explain a little more about it, has more to do with your maturity has more to do with the way you choose or respond to challenging situations, what we call emotional intelligence, rather than your age. Now, if you're out there trying to choose a life partner, don't be obsessed with whether they are older than you. Check how they look at life. Check how their attitude, their worldview, their mental outlook to life, how they perceive situations, how they solve problems, how they consider other people. That's extremely important. So it's more of maturity than age. And I'm sure some of you have met fully grown adults, very fully grown adults who have low maturity levels, yeah, in terms of how they view life. That's why you also may meet a younger person in age who reasons better, who looks at life more from a mature standpoint. So yes, while age, as I explained, it might be important biologically, as I've explained, don't be obsessed with it. Look at the person in terms of their emotional maturity. So by this time, I'm sure you're asking, so what do you mean maturity? And I'm going to try and explain this. Why we are emphasizing maturity is that from a marriage therapy standpoint, we realize that most of the problems, or maybe all, the problems affecting marriage are a result of immaturity. And you will agree with me. And I will tell you that the kind of problems we are having in the marriage institution are all revolving around maturity or a lack of it. Why? I mean, look at issues like domestic violence. This is not because people have married a wrong person, or this is not because they made a wrong choice. It is because they have a challenge as a person in terms of how they manage emotions, how they process issues, how they manage conflict, how they empathize with others. That's where it comes from. Look at problems like adultery. Adultery is on the rise. Why? That's a sign of immaturity, and I'm going to talk about that a little more. So maturity or emotional intelligence is extremely important. Now, as I've told you that maturity is a function of two processes. One is the age, which I've talked about. I've explained the brain development, but it's also the growing processes, the experiences, the impressions, the nurturing that we have gotten. You know, it's the capacity to think right and make the right decisions if you want. When we talk about maturity, it's as simple as that. Capacity to think right and to make the right decisions. That's what it is. So when we talk about maturity, we are talking about the art of being responsible for your actions. Okay, that's maturity. We are talking about being sensitive and considerate towards others and their needs. That's empathy. You know, being considerate and sensitive. It's maturity. Maturity also is reflected in our ability to change and adapt to circumstances. I have been speaking to different married groups and telling them that inability to adapt and change to the institution of marriage. So many people are married, but they are living single. Check your actions. Are they actions of a married person? Check your decisions. Are they decisions of a married person? You're married, but now your finances are yours alone. You're married, but you feel pressured to be home because it's about you. You're not considering the needs of the person you married. You're married, you are a father and a mother. You don't consider that you have children there. You're still living single. So one of the challenges we are having is that immaturity, the inability to change and adapt to the marriage institution or to the marriage challenge or the marriage responsibility. Maturity also, or what we call an emotionally mature person, is always adding value to themselves and to others around them. I mentioned in one of my sessions about the three people we marry. The person you thought you knew, the person that they really are, but the third person is the person that they become because of you. Adding value to another person. That's maturity, where you don't judge someone and wonder what's wrong with them, but you're able to say, I can be a blessing to this person. I can add value to this person. I love this person and I'm going to support them to overcome a challenge. That's maturity. But not to write them off and wonder and even tell the whole world what's wrong with them. That's maturity. So I'm answering the question, does age matter? I already told you, but I'm saying it's maturity, the mental ability, you know, the mental age that matters, not the number of years. And this is about perspective, how we view things, how we view problems. I've met some people who abandon a marriage because they married someone who had money, now they've lost a job, they've gone. That's immaturity, you see. And I've always also encouraged people to know that when we get into the family institution or when we get married, we are never prepared for the challenges that are out there. This is a platform where you're shaping generations. There's so much to do. There's so much hurdle to jump and overcome. There's so much problems to solve. As I've always said, adult life is about problem solving. So our ability to face and solve a problem is important. So that's why maturity is absolutely important in a marriage relationship, more than the physical age. So it's mental age and not physical age per se. But as I mentioned, physical age also matters to the point that I explained. I'm going to just explain a few things about mental age and especially give you a quick checklist, if you wish, give you a few indicators of good mental age or a mature person And reminding you that marriage is for mature people, by the way. It's for mature people, not just age. It's for someone mature to handle a huge responsibility. Marriage is a lot of hard work, or relationships are a lot of hard work. So we need to have a mental perspective that is ready for this. We have to be mentally ready to do this. So this is how a person looks like. An emotionally mature person looks like. Number one, this is indicator number one, taking responsibility. If we are going to have healthy relationships, we have to be we have to be with people who take responsibility in a relationship. Now, I know where I'm coming from. This means that you don't blame others for your actions or when something goes wrong, right? Now, I have been sharing with different people. I will tell you that in a relationship, in marriage, conflict is inevitable. I don't remember anyone who says they've never conflicted. I think I've seen one old couple that says they never conflict. But I don't know, well, I don't want to get into that. But I want to tell you that conflict is normal in a relationship. Disagreements are normal. It's okay to have a different viewpoint. It's okay to have a different opinion. How you handle this, if you go wrong, how you handle this and take responsibility, that's important. When you make a mistake, how you own it up, taking responsibility is sign number one of a mature person. And I've been running parenting sessions. I want to encourage parents who are watching, please train your children to take responsibility. If you realize that a child is still running away, it's normal, by the way, for human beings to run away from responsibility, to take from a mistake or something gone wrong. It's natural. But when we go through the maturation process, we need to be helped to own up, to take responsibility, to possess a spirit of humility instead of complaining about circumstances. These are things that help us to build a good marriage relationship. When you're in that state where you're able to, you're humble enough, you acknowledge something has gone wrong, you're not just complaining to anyone who dares to know, then we are going to make good relationships. A person who takes responsibility is action-oriented. They are problem solvers, not problem finders. They are able to say, what do we do? They don't say, how did that happen? That's taking responsibility. They say, what can I do to improve this situation? Not the other way around. Why, how did that come up? So that's a mature person. And this has nothing to do with how old you are in terms of physical age. No, it's something to do with mental age and mental outlook to life. That's number one, taking responsibility. Number two, empathy. Showing empathy is an indicator of emotional maturity. This is extremely important in a marriage relationship or in any intimate relationship, in a love relationship. Showing empathy. Emotionally mature individuals approach life by doing as much as they can to support those around them, not to look for their own needs. I hear people who ask, what is in this relationship for me? No, that's wrong. That's immaturity. For you, put in a relationship, put in this business venture, and then you'll get profits. So look at how you can be a blessing to your spouse. You've chosen them. They have a weakness. They have a problem. Support them. How can you empathize? When your partner is having a challenge, do you come in to ask them what's wrong with them? Or do you empathize? Empathizing is about standing in the shoes of someone, or being in that place of, if they are going through this, how do they feel? Let me support them. That's a mature person. But immaturity manifests in being unempathetic. You don't care. You're looking for what is in there for you. Okay? Now, a person who is able to show empathy, they also know that someone else needs help. They are more concerned about others, about your partner, more than yourself and finding ways to help them. So that's empathy. It's important. It's a good indicator of emotional maturity. So again, this doesn't run around physical age. This is something that we gain out of intentional mindset change, intentional mental adjustment. Then we are able to look at life from a different. And this is, again, irrespective of age. Number 3, being unafraid of our vulnerability, right? Being unafraid of our vulnerability. We can be vulnerable. Well, one of the things I teach different sections of people is the beauty of self-awareness, right? Self-awareness is an important element of emotional intelligence. You are aware. You are aware that you have strength and you're okay with them, but you're also aware that you have weaknesses. And I've always mentioned that we can never, ever improve ourselves if we are guilty or ashamed or we run away from our weaknesses. If any person gives you feedback on your weakness, you kill them. You kill them. That's immaturity. Now, you know why this is important in a marriage relationship. We have to be vulnerable. We become vulnerable to that level. And if you are always willing to be open and share your struggles, that's what builds a relationship and gets us connected at whatever level, whether you're dating or you're already in a marriage relationship. I ran a session on the 4 stages of a relationship, and I talked about a stage called discovery. This discovery stage is for us as individuals, but also for our partners. And the more open we are and honest we are to share our struggles, to share our areas of weakness, that helps us to bond and be complete, and we are able to get or give the support that is needed. So that is very important. Level of vulnerability. Are you afraid of your vulnerability? And you're also interested. You're not just interested in being seen as perfect. You're okay in your skin. You're able to come out the way you are. You're not a fake. You're not faking yourself around. You're just allowing yourself to be, you're okay. That's a sign of utmost maturity. So let's make sure you focus on this. Again, I want to remind you that this is not an issue of physical age. It's again mental outlook to life. Number 4. This is extremely important. An emotionally mature person, or a mature person, not just age, is one who is able to recognize and accept the needs of others. Those with emotional maturity can admit that they need help, okay, first of all. But then they also appreciate that they can help others in need. You can help your spouse without experiencing a burnout. Of course, from experience as a family therapist, I get to speak into so many people's lives. And definitely, I appreciate, I understand when someone says they have a burnout, they cannot take it anymore. But I want to tell you that when you acknowledge that someone has a need, and you are in their lives to support them, whether they are your friends or your partner, that is a great trait. That is a sign of emotional intelligence. And I know that it can get to breaking point, but you should also know that at that point you're able to communicate clearly, you're able to understand someone, and you know that they have a need, and you also accept that you have a need. That's a sign of emotional intelligence, which is irrespective of how old you are. Another important indicator for a mature person is the ability to set healthy boundaries. I'm very sure some of us who are in a relationship, dating or married, you know that boundaries are important. And speaking into so many people's lives, this is a big issue. where people are saying, what do you mean? It's just that. They are just in my phone. All that. You don't understand that certain things are supposed to be handled a certain way. You're supposed to set boundaries. Some of us who are married, you have someone calling you at midnight, and you think your spouse should understand that. You have certain relationships that are very unclear, and then you say, that's it, because you are unable to set boundaries. You can't go back to the people that are probably breaking your marriage to say, please don't call me at this time, or when please we acknowledge that we are supposed to relate with people, all the people, but when you're married, there are certain boundaries that you're supposed to set. When you're dating, you're not available to everyone, and then you expect the person in your life to understand. So that ability to set healthy boundaries, to relate with the opposite sex and still be safe, and you're not running your partner anxious, that is a sign of maturity, because it is also a form of self-love and respect. You know how and when to define a line and won't allow others to cross it. Even in our regular lives, that's extremely important. I need to know how to relate with my workers at different levels, even the home workers or wherever. Setting those boundaries is a sign of maturity, So we need to know that some of these things are extremely, extremely important, and this is irrespective of how old you are. So I'm making the point that emotional maturity or mental maturity is more important than age. So when you're asking, when should I get married, please check out these elements more than the number of years somebody has. My last message on this is, let's be deliberate in investing in emotional maturity. As I've already told you, this comes in the form of how we perceive things, how we solve problems, how we perceive challenges, how we perceive the needs of, how we are empathetic to others. Let's invest in that, because it is called the power of repeated behavior. Anything you want to have mastery on, make sure you do it repeatedly. If you want to grow in empathy, be empathetic today, tomorrow, another day. If you want to to grow in problem solving, make sure you do this, solve a problem. Always ask the question, what can we do? Not how did this happen? Anything you want to do, just make sure you do it repeatedly. We have to be deliberate and intentional in terms of how we grow in emotional maturity. I want to tell you that, once again, that all the problems we are having in families are a result of immaturity more than anything else. I've already told you, violence, 6%, which is it contributes 6% to divorce rates. Adultery, it contributes to 18%. All these things are a result of immaturity, because we are trying to look for quick fixes. And of course, incompatibility, which contributes the biggest, 44%. All these things, incompatibility, it's the way we are not accommodating each other, not solving problems. So let me just once again conclude by asking us to be more intentional in terms of our perspective, the way we look at things, our attitude, our mental outlook to things, how gracious we are, how empathetic we are to our partners. That's when we are going to have healthy relationships. Friends, healthy relationships don't just come. They are a lot of hard work, and I pray that we shall be deliberate and intentional in terms of putting the knowledge we have gotten into practice. Thank you so much, and God bless you.